Hit it.
We're here.
11:18.
Jeez. It'll be a quick one, I think, straight off the bat.
Should be a quicker one. We kind of fucked up the timing. Honestly, look, in hindsight, we should have done this on an off day. We should have done this on like a weekday. But as you can see, folks, we got a little bit of a setup going, a little bit of an upgrade from our previous episodes up till this point. But yeah, we got the curtain, as you can see, behind us. The little mahogany, purple, red. I think
this is like the min-max in terms of like leveling up.
It's definitely
just like one change. It's not even that big of a change. Putting up some curtains just adds another layer of professionalism, and it looks clean. Really like it.
Yeah, it does look clean. I like the vibe as well. I like the lighting too. The lighting we also upgraded. We turned off the light. I don't even know. Is that like a
fluorescent
basic an office kind of light? Very. I don't even. How would you describe it? It's just not as sharp, or like I don't know anything about
like that.
Yeah, lighting like that.
I would be butchering it.
It's fluorescent.
It's not
just
like
trash.
an ideal.
If it's
light
fluorescent, it's poo.
Yeah.
You know. But right now we got the. What are these? what kind of lights are these now?
I don't know, man.
You don't even know what these are.
Either. They're just like
you fucking bought
lighting.
them.
They're lighting. It's a lighting kit. You know
what's the difference? Is this still fluorescent? Or?
I think this is LED, but there's a diffuser, so it's just like a white.
Diffuse what, bro? What are the fucking diffusing? Bro?
Anyway, because we're not lighting experts. Like I think the cool thing about it is that every week, folks, there's something
1%
being added.
better.
1% better.
At least.
I think this week, like just from production value alone, we're
like 69%.
Plus 10, yeah, 69, exactly.
Because
we're
not
at
only
59,
that,
now we're at a 69, you know?
Right. Because not only the curtain and the lighting, but we also have we got a few things in the pipeline that we're checking off week by week. So this past week were the thumbnails. The thumbnail design, which
exactly, I liked it. I that one is.
I mean, it's just a quick thing that we can do every single week.
Yeah.
Like our two photos, our two cutoffs, and then just a random like funny little picture in the back.
Exactly.
Kind of entice people to click.
You do that on Canva?
Canva, man. Yeah,
shout out Canva, man. Sponsor us, Canva, please.
Canva's crazy. It's so easy. It's just like PowerPoint.
Yeah, man.
But the AI, that's
the AI and just like the templates and just the way that like it's clean in terms of it's just so user friendly in terms of like how you're moving things. It processes things really quickly too for a web app. Like it's really impressive.
Definitely by far though the best thing about it is its user friendliness.
Yeah, 100%
user friendly.
Like you don't have to have any kind of like you don't even have to have any friends in interior design and share it into to make something like that shit. Really nice. You know what I mean?
You don't have to have your PhD in interior design or aesthetics. But,
so for anybody that's like has their own business or wants to promote something or something like that, like you might be thinking, oh, I have to learn Adobe Photoshop and have to learn like all these applications that the professionals use. No, I mean, you could go that route for sure, but if you want to min-max your time, then you could go on Canva, and we're not sponsored by them or anything like that. We actually really use it, and even for the gym, like I've done a bunch of the promo stuff.
What have you been using it on?
For like the ads and whatnot, like just putting something together, like really quickly, because you could even do because it gives you different options, right? So you can make just a straight up banner, you can make a picture, you can make like a poster, but it also gives you the options for creating like Instagram reels, Instagram story, posts. So it gives you like a template to start off with, and it just simplifies it from the
thing
get.
That it also, I guess, is under the category of user friendliness, is that there's so many different presets that are applicable to all the different the most common use cases out there.
The most common use cases.
Like there's one that I use for literally YouTube thumbnails.
Exactly.
There's one that you're probably using for
posters. But even
posters.
once you choose that initial one, then you could just search, like I think it's Elements or something like that, but you could search for, like I'll just search for like Kids Summer Camp, and I just use that and just replaced all the information with like the applicable information, and then you could embed videos in it. Like it's super cool. So from a productivity standpoint, like there's only so many hours in a day, and I wish I had all the time in the world to learn Photoshop and like all these like applications that like actual professionals in the space use, because obviously that opens up the like a greater universe in terms of what's possible, right? But if you just want something quick, if you want something that looks clean, then Canva like is a good answer. Sure.
Yeah, I mean, quick for sure, but in terms of just quality too, like it's not even, bro. It's not even that far off. Like, of course, there's always going to be the professional grade shit, like the Photoshops and the Premiere Pros of the world that, you know, I guess a low effort solution like a Canva, or like just a more practical solution, more user accessible solution like Canva won't be able to min max that deep
Unless you're very good at it.
Unless you're very good at it,
right.
and then yeah, you know. But I would even think in that case, if you had a really good Premiere Pro person versus a really good like TikToker, right? Because I would think that TikTok is kind of the equivalent to Canva in the video space.
For shorts. Yeah, I wouldn't be editing like long shit. Like I would probably be using something else for.
Right, but like to that point though, like if you were to have a really good TikToker versus a really good person in Premiere Pro, like obviously the Premiere Pro person is going to have a way more diverse like kit, like background and just a skill set. But it's not to say that arguably the person that's doing TikToks is probably going to have way more opportunities in the market to create shorts for other people, do freelance shit. Versus the person that has
I would think so.
A Premiere skill set.
In terms of like I would think that if you're in that space as a professional, like Photoshop person, like, you know, like digital artist or something like that, then you're probably like, if you want to be in that space, then probably TikTok would be a great way to get your work out there.
The same way Canva, like developing a skill set and being really good at Canva, you can probably fucking like kill if you're in that space. If you're in the graphic design space and you're an expert in Canva, versus like Photoshop and that kind of thing. Because bro, like making that thumbnail was like, I made that shit in like 30 minutes, 10, 15 minutes versus like what
on Photoshop
my girlfriend had to make on Photoshop. The same kind of thing. And like there's a little bit more there's
more options.
There's more options in
There's
Photoshop,
definitely way more options,
in terms of like what you're able to turn over and churn out and the amount of time
have more tools.
Yeah.
Right. Like so like if you're looking at it as like it's Canva is a great way, like in terms of branding or whatever. Like, it makes complete sense because it pretty much gives you all the tools and techniques prepackaged that you could do in Photoshop anyway, but it just simplifies it so that people just choose it.
Easy.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas for Photoshop, if you like, you know, in terms of what you have in your imagination and then putting it on the actual canvas, you just have way more tools. Way more things in your toolkit compared to a Canva. Like ultimately, you just have way more like possibilities, I would say, compared to a Canva, because you literally have a blank slate in Photoshop versus Canva. It's like everything's like prepackaged, but it averages out like what do people need to create on Photoshop in the first place for like the regular you know, a small business or consumer that doesn't have the time to, or doesn't have the budget to hire a fucking, you know, professional.
You could do it yourself.
Yeah.
Perhaps along that same vein is the use and birth and growth of all these other low code / AI tools that are out there that are making things just so much fucking easier.
Like which ones are you using? Like I think you were using one for the production, right?
Well,
like
also for this, we use a couple. I use a couple for producing these pods, and one of them is just using a built-in Chat GPT tool. Mm-hmm. So there is a plugin of some, like I don't even know what it was. Like I think it's an extension.
To Premiere or
no to YouTube. I think it is a third-party extension that you can download on your browser that is integrated with YouTube, so that if you were to, it's basically a transcription summary that that syncs up with Chat GPT. So you download this extension, and then you're able to, through any YouTube URL, it's just embedded in like a section of the page that you're on, or whatever video you're watching, and then you can just click it. It brings you to ChatGPT in a separate tab. It transcribes everything, so like literally transcribing our episodes, our conversations, and then it'll give you a summary, like a 5-point summary, all in one click, about what was talked about and discussed on that episode.
I'm not, so that's one, but that's not the one that you're using to edit the cuts, right?
So I use that one for coming up with a title for the episode, coming
Right.
up with a summary,
Right.
because
That's
it's,
cool.
it's hard to like, you
Yeah.
know,
Unless you're,
doing
like,
it
taking
right away.
notes.
Yeah, unless you're doing
yeah.
it right after the episode or shooting the episode.
Yeah.
It's hard to like look back at it a day later and be like, what the fuck did we even talk
Yeah,
about?
yeah,
You know, and so
yeah.
that is like a really cool solution that
That's a cool solution. Yeah, for
that
sure.
we're using right now. ChatGPT is just fucking brilliant too. Use that shit every
A
single
little scary.
A little
Honestly,
scary, but
they-
fucking
they-
amazing for like work and that
For
kind
sure.
of thing. It's so good. And then the second thing that I use for producing this pod is I think it's called Autopod. So it basically it pretty much just uses AI. It leverages AI and it makes cuts in your podcast so that you don't have to do too much of that manual work of
And
like
the cuts
making
is based
cuts.
on the audio.
Yeah, so if you have two audio tracks, so I think they have three different types of features, but the main one that people use it for is for the cutting aspect. And so what it does is it basically, like you said, it looks at the tracks. Usually in a podcast, depending on how many guests there are, you'll have anywhere from 1 to 5, and I think it can go up to like 5. But it basically reads the
That's
track.
a lot, actually. Fuck.
Yeah, I think maybe it's 3 actually. I might be talking shit, but it reads the track and it looks at the signal of the track, and then if the signal for track A is on, then it'll look at video A,
yeah,
and then it'll
yeah,
make
yeah.
sure that it's
And you can
panned over
determine
the-
what's video A versus video B.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
you determine that by basically just, like every single time you want to
Yeah.
use it, it asks you like, okay,
So which one's which one's that called?
Autopod.
Autopod.
So that one's pretty good. It's not like the best all the time. Like it's probably,
But it's a good starting point because
It's a
you
good
can still
starting
go
point.
back afterwards and then like do your cleanup afterwards, right?
Yes, that's. I still have to go back and do the cleanup, but a lot of the cleanups are already done.
Yeah,
After
exactly.
clicking that one time. So I would say it's about like 70% like good. What I actually do really like about it that because sometimes in our episodes we'll be if we're really into a topic, we're deep into like just the last episode, for example, right? When it came to jiu-jitsu, there were a lot of times where you were telling stories about its history or whatever, and it would be pretty like a long segment, right?
Which I butchered, but after I look back.
Yeah, besides the point.
a good guesstimation. Yeah.
I mean, bro, like it's
Good enough. Good enough.
It's
Did a job.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like Autopod. It's like 70% there.
Yeah.
It's good enough, right? But yeah, like if it's a long segment, what the AI is really good at is it'll like loop in just a random like it'll put like breaks. So it'll like, instead of having you be on the camera or on the main focus,
It'll
for, like,
recognize and then switch back to
just
another
switch back
angle,
for me for a little
and
bit,
then,
and then it'll go back to you if it's like
Cool.
running on for you
Yeah.
know 10 minutes plus.
Yeah.
Which is
Did you notice that sometimes
good.
the audio would cut out?
I did, and then I tweaked it a little bit. This past episode wasn't that bad.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, exactly.
the
It
one
wasn't
before
like the
was-
one
was pretty
before was
brutal.
a few
Yeah.
times. Anyway, so I think like the main takeaway here, like those are the two for Autopod. Actually, is that just a plug-in to Premiere or like how
It
does
is a
that work?
plug-in to
Yeah.
Premiere. It's really easy. Like these, I never would have expected there to be like, for Adobe to actually have like a lot of third-party extensions available for use, but
Mhm.
there's quite a few, and I think the main point that we're getting at here is, number one, the pod's getting fucking better and better every single week. We want to,
We live what we preach. We
Yeah.
always talk about like just getting that 1% better, just showing up, but also showing up with intention. And I think
showing
we're
up with
exercising
intention,
that.
which is we've been doing these. This is what, episode 7 now.
Yeah,
So we're keeping the ball going. We're just getting started.
getting our
but
reps in, baby.
we as you can see, there's still a lot of things that we have to do, and one of them right off the bat is we need to get another curtain.
Yeah.
Because it's not going down all the way, and so
Yeah.
your angle's a little scuffed up right now, but yeah, by next week we should have a whole fucking wall of curtain. The lighting should complement it
Inshallah,
really
bro.
well.
Inshallah, that's the case. We'll see.
How's how's Reva been doing?
Reel's
with,
been good. I mean, we it's definitely been a lull in terms of signups, which we actually had a call about like marketing and whatnot yesterday. So We have a couple strats to help address that because right now the goal is just to get profitable. You know what I mean? And there's we just need to cover our expenses and whatnot, and we're almost there. Like for the fact that we're been open officially for just like the past 3 weeks, we're doing great. But now it's just like the same kind of attitude. Try to approach each week with like a target and try to meet those targets. And yeah, no, it's on the upswing. You know. There's we're trying to get the March break going as well. The disadvantage that we have for the March break camp for the kids is the fact that we don't have kids registered. I'm looking for it as a way to funnel kids into the program. So that's another effort that we're doing. But yeah, so training's been good. A lot of the newer people are like, a bunch of them have come up to me is like, oh, like, after a couple of weeks, I'm already starting. Like, I feel like I know a little bit more each week, you know what I mean? And they're like a couple of them are like, really, you could see that they're starting to have like a lot. I mean, all of them are having fun or whatever, but you can see that there's that little spark behind their eye, you know what I mean? Which is really cool to see. Them kind of like falling in love with the art and the sports. So yeah, no, so far so good. Excited for next few weeks. We'll see whether or not these campaigns and these strategies that we put in are going to be effective, and if not, then we just go back to the drawing board and keep at it.
Are you able to talk a little bit more about what are you trying to how are you going about these campaigns? Like, what are these campaigns that you're looking at?
So the campaigns, right now have to do with just a lot of social media. There's all sorts of different ways that you can advertise nowadays online. And, you have your Google AdWords, you have your social media, your Facebook and Instagram through Meta. You have TikTok, for example. So we've been focusing more so on the online aspect instead of the traditional means of marketing, which is like boots on the ground. You're going in and you're kind of like either cold calling people or going to the community centers and like trying to, get the ball rolling, going into to the actual schools nearby and promoting within the schools, which are more traditional way of promoting for like a martial arts academy. But a lot of our focus is online, and so and that takes time, right? Like on average, people are not just going to on the first viewing of like an ad, they're not just going to click on that ad. On average, it takes about 7 times. First off, they have to be interested, and then second off, they have to see it on average 7 times before they actually take action.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think we built, like right now, admittedly, I don't think, based on what Meta's telling me, our lead per cost per lead is not that it's below average. So I have to look into ways to making it above average. Because how much we're paying per lead, like we're making a lot of impressions, there's a lot of reach, but the turnover it's not converting into actual leads, just like strong leads anyway. There's been a bunch of leads, but like again, then that becomes a numbers game too, right? Like calling them up and actually getting some traction on that. I find in terms of martial arts, at the end of the day, it's going to be like word of mouth is the most effective source of marketing, right? So we got to get to this number where it's just like, okay, we're profitable, like we're actually clearing expenses, and then from there it's just a matter of like I mean, all the while you're still focusing on providing a great product. So even for like the current members that we have right now, like a bunch of them is like, oh, I'm trying to tell my friends to come, like, you know what I mean? So I think there's going to be a certain point, and like this is what Toma was saying in his experience with Evo, was that after you reach that number, whether it be 30, 40, 50, then as long as you cultivate that good culture and like make it like a fun place and a safe place to learn, then that's where that word of mouth, that referral really comes back, like comes and bears fruit.
Right.
So I think that's what we're trying to get to is reach to that point where, now we don't have to worry about paying our bills. And then from there is just focusing wholly, really, like mostly on just providing that great product, right?
Mm-hmm. And it's around the point, because that's everything, right? When it comes to impressions, and when I think about things like impressions and leads, and I think it all starts off with that first point, right? That first point of contact where either the person sees it on their browser or they see it on their computer or their phone, or or even on like an ad or something.
Hmm.
The thing that a lot of I guess marketing 101, I could think back to marketing 101, or even just like from YouTube's quote unquote gurus
Hmm.
that are in the marketing space. They often talk about a really significant concept around that, and it's all around what you gotta entice the people that you're trying to reach out and that you're trying to attract to the gym, right, or whatever business that you're doing. And that all, I think a big thing that they preach, or that you got to focus on, is around your offer. Have you considered like what is the offer right now, and like is there ways that you can improve that to make it more enticing for people to be like, yo, I'd be dumb not to fucking consider this or take this if I'm
there's
interested
some
in
tried,
jujitsu.
tested, and true methods. Like usually you're gonna offer like a free trial, try it out for a week, couple weeks, and go that way. Like there isn't really like
a March break deal or something like that for kids, or
that's definitely on the table as well. So that's kind of what I was hoping on, is like, during March break, hey, come attend this camp, and then I don't even have to make money on it, but I just want to show the kids like, hey, this is fucking fun, right? And then they go home and it's like, oh, I want to keep going, right? So, it's kind of it's martial arts academies are usually the offers are like year long, like, oh, sign up for a year and you get a price break, or sign up for 6 months, you get a price break. We're not in we've decided to not get into contracts. So I think that's a big, and you know what, now that I'm saying that out loud, maybe that's something that I need to push a little bit more, is like no contracts required or whatever. No sign up registration fee or something like that, because I know some gyms do that. So actually that's an interesting point. But yeah, I mean, in terms of offers, it's usually a couple week trial, or like, sign up offers where there's like a contract involved. And the challenge, and maybe I'll dig into that a little bit. The challenge with like the contract thing is like it becomes an administrative nightmare if, like, let's say we were to move, or if we, for whatever reason, need to shut her down or something like that, right? Because now you're kind of leaving people like, I've seen it before. We've all seen it before in the martial arts space, where a gym will close down, and the thing is, they'll usually, like, that's right before they do a bunch of promotions saying, oh, sign up for a year, because they need a lot of cash influx just to keep the doors open. And then for whatever reason they don't make their numbers, and then boom, they close down, and then now a bunch of people are out without money. You know what I mean? Because they've already paid cash or whatever, right? For like the year. Like that happened at the UFC gym in Square One, and it happened to a couple other gyms that I know of as well. So I think that, I mean, that also kind of happened to us at our old gym.
That's also an ownership thing too. Like if that were the case, you would pay it back, right? Like you'd pay the people back, or
it depends. It depends, yeah. Right? Like, what if that money went towards the rent?
Right.
And that money's already paid. Gone. It's already gone, right? Yeah, like, true. So that's where, instead of getting into that whole like what if, like, it just keeps it simple. Like no contracts, and
just
like
a month per month basis,
month to month, yeah. And like, hey man, if you like. Again, it's the focus on providing a great product. If you provide a great product, then it doesn't become an issue. The only time, like the only time that it would really become an issue is like that it's almost like, you're not providing a great product, so you're locking people in. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like I can definitely see merit in having those types of memberships, and I think that is something where maybe down the line, where if we actually own the building that the school's in, that's something that I would do. Because that's something that I've thought about, is like, if we do end up like let's say you and I down the road, we want to open a gym somewhere, right? I would probably be more inclined to buying a building or buying the space as opposed to like renting it off someone, unless you get like as good of a deal as we're getting right now, right? So yeah, I mean, look, this is, to me, in the typical path of gyms opening, there's usually one of two paths. A, you're opening with no students, and you're just doing like, you're basically starting from the ground up. B, you're already coming to the table with some students for whatever the context or scenario might be, where maybe you were working for a gym and then now you've decided to open a gym, so you're going to take some of their students, which usually some drama behind that. Or maybe you got kicked out of a gym, right? Like, and then you had a bunch of people follow you as well, and then so meaning that you're already coming to the table with a membership base. Obviously, that's an advantageous route because by the time you do get that space, you could already rely on the fact that you're making X amount per month, right? Whereas for this one, it's a lot more. There's a lot more. What do you call it? You're not coming to the same to the table with the same advantage as obviously like the one that we just mentioned, right? Because you're starting from the ground up.
Mm-hmm.
And for now let's focus on that one for a second. Either you start seeing a huge influx of students, which is honestly rare. It's very rare for you to see like a bunch of students just come in like in the first month, and then that's like, that is not the norm. Whereas most schools that just first start off, I remember like Hamilton BJJ, for example, when Aaron was just starting things to get things going, there would be nights where no members showed up at all. You know what I mean? And now he has a bunch of members, which I'm so happy to see that, right? He has a full room in there.
Where's that one?
It's Hamilton BJJ. Shout out those guys. Aaron, what up?
Aaron Gall?
No. Aaron Diedrich. Yes. You were there for his black belt. Remember the big guy from Hamilton?
That's the guy you used to do kids classes with.
Yeah. So I started the kids program over there with Toma. Toma actually is the one that opened it and then asked Aaron like, hey, do you want to partner up on this? You take reins of the ADL program. And then by the time Toma and I started talking about this place, that's where like I told Aaron like, hey, like, I'm going to focus on other things. And then he just took over the kids program from there. And yeah, I mean, he has a thriving school, growing membership base. And I think he actually, from a marketing standpoint, has other strategy. Like there's from a marketing standpoint, you could either do it yourself or you could get somebody else to do it for you. If you get somebody else to do it for you, usually, from my understanding, you get like a subscription base. So that's an option for us as well. But I kind of like, part of the reason, first off, I want to be clear. I am not a marketer by trade. You know what I mean? But I'm taking, and part of the reason why the conversions the cost per lead is probably low is probably because of something I'm doing. Yeah. Right. But I'm learning, you know what I mean? I'm spending a lot of time putting these like ad campaigns together, learning more about it. And so that's one of the things now that I see numbers to actually back up what I got to look into next. That's what I know what I got to focus on is like, okay, clearly like Meta is telling, shout out Meta, by the way, because Meta makes it really easy to put up an ad campaign. It's very user friendly. So talk about like Canva being user friendly. Meta makes it so seamless as well. So they give you all these metrics about how your ad campaign is doing, right? Like how much money you're spending, how much, like what's your reach, what's your impressions, all that good stuff. And one of those key metrics that it tells me is how, like on average, based on similar campaigns, how is our cost per lead doing compared to those, right? So it's telling us is below average. Now knowing that with actual solid numbers, I can go back and be like, okay, how do I fix that? I could do the research that just targets that one specific aspect of it. You know what I mean? So
yeah, that's dope.
I think Toddman, one of our partners, he has other businesses as well. So I'm connecting with one of his marketers that does it like just by like, that's what they do for a living, just for them to look over like what we got. And then, from there, just upgrade, bro, trying to improve, Because I think for us, that space, like marketing in general, like down the road, that's going to be a useful skill for like us, right? For whether it be for the podcast, even for our businesses back home in the Philippines, like who knows? You know what I mean? Like it's going to be a useful skill to cultivate.
It's a huge skill. It's like it's the Trinity Force.
What else would you say is part of that Trinity Force? So marketing, what else?
Marketing, I would definitely say marketing is probably like the market. I would lump sales in there.
Like biz dev.
Yeah, like marketing, sales,
and then product.
Yeah, product will be number 2, and then 3. Like, I mean, you definitely need like the operations and the finance side of it. So
Ops.
That's probably your top 3 right there.
I was just remembering the Holy Trinity from
the Holy Trinity. That's why I brought it up. The Holy Trinity.
Shout out Ryan.
What was it
Shout
again?
out Mac, man.
The Holy Trinity.
I almost don't want to share it, bro. Like that's like on some like group chat, like that. Probably should not mention that.
You got to keep the
know
group
what I
chat
mean?
sacred and confidential. Otherwise,
yeah.
you might see some of your loved ones behind bars. But
Hey man, that's a normal thing. I'm sure, like, you know, those group chats with certain people, that's where you could be a little bit loose. It's kind of reckless, like that you're using some of these channels that, you know, it's kind of questionable
because
whether or
my
not they're
thing
collecting
is
their data, but who cares?
the thing that exactly. My thing that I worry about is you always hear this word thrown around with all these chats like WhatsApp, Discord, that it's encrypted, that it's protected. No one's gonna look at it, and it's like, okay.
What's the one that the Mossad has? The one where you literally, they just need to know your telephone number and they'll have everything. I forget what it's called.
I don't know.
But there's this spy. There's this literal spy program where they, like, this is the same one that I think the Saudis actually got Jeff Bezos with. Jeff Bezos' phone got like hacked.
Isn't that
right?
through WhatsApp or no? I think that was.
I don't know if it was through WhatsApp, but all they used this software, this spy software that literally you just need to know at the time. You just need to know their number, their telephone number, and they have every. So like traditionally, right? That's where you have to click a link to then get compromised, right? But this one, you don't even have to click a link at all.
Yeah.
They just need to know your number, and they have everything on you. Now I think it's to the point, I'm sure that with, like, you know, the recent advances with AI, and this is just the stuff that we're seeing in public, right? Like, I wonder what that they have behind closed doors that is like a military advantage, that if, you know, that's probably where a lot of these UFOs are coming from, to be honest with
you. Yeah, could be.
I mean? Like these crazy weapon programs.
The one saving grace would be the fact that, you know, there's really, at least as far as my life goes, outside of these group chats, the group chats are probably, as like, if you were to like encapsulate your digital footprint, the group chats are probably the worst thing by far.
Probably
100%.
Some
of the stuff that you would say in these chats are just like,
yeah,
you know, and that goes for anyone.
And the thing is,
too.
like, okay, like, it's just like the comedy thing, man. Are you going for funny, or are you like where are you coming from?
That's true. Yeah, the
intent. Where's the intent? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is the intent actually where you're like online bullying somebody, where you post somebody in the group chat and you're just like ragging on them? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if it's unjustified, then, like, you know, that's kind of messed up, right? Whereas if I'm just trying to like make you laugh with a meme
or some
sickening, like something that you would not repeat,
yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, yeah, bro, like, I'm just trying to make you laugh, you know what I mean?
Yeah, in a really fucked up way. But yeah, no, that I think about, I think I heard this from a Rogan pod. He's a big believer in this future where everyone's going to be able to read each other's minds. And I think that, like, that's a very real possibility, one, but two, I don't know, like, I think that would be a net bad thing for society.
I think so.
Yeah.
I agree. That, like, I think that it sounds good on paper and sounds good in theory, like, oh, you know, everybody's honest, but, like, I don't know, man. It's
like,
not
for politics, it would be great.
Would it though?
For politics, because I was pretty quick to say that, but I think it would be good. I think it would be good to understand people's motives and then, like, the actual weight behind people's words when they're, you know,
I don't know. It's hard to picture a world like that, because it's so, like, outside of the realm of, like,
just
how
human nature.
It is today. You know what I mean?
Just how we understand each other today.
Like, how would that work if you're like a little child and, like, your parent? Like, there's certain things that parents just don't, like, are not completely, like, maybe I don't know, like, where's, like, what would happen to, like, Christmas, bro? What would happen to Santa? You know what I mean?
That's true. Because
I
like,
there's certain like white truths, you know what I mean, that are kind of lies, but, you know, I don't know.
Like, lies for...
That's an interesting concept, though.
It is. It's so, like, I think it's certain in context, like, when it comes to dealing with things like corruption.
Yeah.
Like, it's probably a good thing to have more...
I think it's just like
honest,
that would be technology, right? And like technology and like any other tool that's made by man, it's going to be dependent on the person that's using it, right?
Yeah.
Like, to me, I think for something like that, like, being able to read someone else's mind, I don't know, man. That's kind of tricky.
I kind of don't even... I feel like there would have to be an option where you don't
okay,
You
like
can't.
I think where it's tricky is because, okay, let's look at a technology. Not all technology is accessible to everybody, right? So for those that are able to afford it, that's a crazy advantage. That's a big upgrade,
Huge advantage.
right? But now for those that can't afford it, now like the distance of power is so great already between the very, very rich versus very, very, very poor. Now for those that can actually afford it, they're just going to upgrade to the point where they're basically like integrated with AI, right? Versus those that are down here. Now you don't you think that gap is going to go slimmer? No, I think what's going to end up happening is you're going to have like overlords that basically have like the craziest technology, and then you're going to have like real humans, you know what I mean, that are not integrated with technology, but they're going to be probably subjugated by them, not necessarily like in a slavery kind of way, but maybe in a slicker kind of way, like how we have a society right now, right? That's what I think where it gets kind of tricky. Like if everyone had access to it, that'd be kind of interesting. I wonder like maybe if everyone had access to it, that gap becomes slimmer. Whereas if not everyone has access to it, that distance of power gap I think would probably increase.
Yeah, I don't know
think that's
about that
automatic.
subjugation. That's a cool concept. I don't know if that's the case. I think if anything, the gap just in terms of productivity and like individual capacity is just going to be night and day, obviously. And I think that being said, like that one motherfucker that, you know, overlord type that has that access to that is just going to mop the floor. Like if you think
and
about
you think
job
when they get the more power, more resources, that they would be like, I mean, it's a pattern that's stood the test of time is when somebody gets a lot of power, bro, even if they came into that with good intentions, you stay in power long enough, like it doesn't usually turn out well.
Yeah. No, it's hard for me to even like comprehend.
And I think that's where some wise guys in the past recognize that, like your George Washingtons, like your Cincinnatus. You know Cincinnatus?
No.
Cincinnatus is the guy that Cincinnati's named after. And he was this farmer that was like called upon by this Roman Senate, where there were these great times of war. And he would get called up to basically lead like the Roman Empire against like the like these invaders or some shit. I'm butchering this. But basically, instead of like, and everybody wanted him to stay as the leader. Right. And like, oh, lead us. But no, once the war was over, he's like, I don't like, you don't need me anymore. If I were to stay in here, I would become a tyrant. So I'm going to give the power back to the people. And this happened, I think this happened a couple of times where the Rome got invaded again or some shit. And then like he got called up and still gave power back. It's the same thing with George Washington. George Washington, that's where the two-term presidency came from. Is where like after 2 terms, he's like, no, I'm going to give power back to the people. If that didn't happen, like think of like if that president wasn't set from George Washington in the first place, you don't think that there would be guys that would have kept power like Xi Jinping until lifetime?
Those guys are just extremely noteworthy leaders. Do you think being able to read people's minds and also have this ability to just be integrated with AI will make people better leaders that people will look up to? Or I feel like if anything, they'd be isolated. If there was an outcome like that, if that was a potential outcome of there being a discrepancy between people that have access to those technologies versus people that don't, like normal people, I would almost think that those people that would have access to it would be a lot like a sub portion of the population, and like by like a huge margin. I'm talking like 1% versus like the 99%. And the 99% of people would obviously just be like, yo, well, not obviously, but maybe they're going to be like completely ostracizing those people because of the fact that there is a huge
so
discrepancy.
I'm a big believer that when somebody gets money, it doesn't change them. It just exaggerates who they already were. So if you're an asshole before money, when you get money, do you think you're just going to become a better person? You're probably going to be a bigger asshole. Like that's usually the case. Like just from my own anecdotal experience, if somebody was good before money, that's where it can split. They can either be just, I think if they become bad, I think they were already bad to begin with. They just were good on the surface. Whereas somebody that was truly good, I think it would just exaggerate who the goodness of who they are already anyway, right? Well, the reason why I bring that up is because I hear what you're saying, but how is it today? Do you think that the 1% really gives a shit for the rest for the other 99%?
Yeah.
Look at how the way corporations work today. You think the corporations are doing things out of the goodness of their hearts, or are they doing good things out of the interest of the shareholders?
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And so if you now add that technology, that upgrade to those people, I don't think it would just, to me, that's just tapping into even more access to power and influence, because you basically have a superpower.
You do, but I'm the point that I'm trying to make is that I do think it could be argued that, because at the end of the day too, like business, like the exchange of goods and services is like a human thing, right? And if you're ostracized away from that because of the fact that you have those things and people don't want to work with you, like how are you going to thrive? You know what I mean? Like how are you going to be able to reap the benefits of capitalism if no one wants to fucking work with you? You know what I mean?
They don't necessarily have, like, okay, you like, how about all these corporations right now that are like quote unquote evil, like the ones that are like polluting? If you use that logic, you think people would be? You think why are people still working for them?
True, because you could, if you're that person that had like that 1% that are just fucking AI, like you're basically a robot at that point. Let's just call them robots, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like humans that are basically robots, because that's what you are, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're able to read people's minds and you're able to like be so integrated with AI that you're basically a robot.
Mm-hmm.
You're not even a human anymore, right? But if you are that 1% of robots, human robots, then you just can make something that's completely like I don't know, actually. I don't even know if you could, because like, could you, if you were a robot, could you even like compete with by yourself, right? Let's say you're like a group of 5 robots that are able to have all those superpowers. Could you compete with the likes of Microsoft or Apple or, you know, any FANG kind of company, or even these huge oil companies, like these companies that have like thousands of employees and thousands of like just unimaginable resources? You know, could you compete with those guys? Like, are you a threat if you're those 5 groups of robots? You know,
maybe if they have powerful AI. I mean, like, you know, robots, as long as they have a power source, they don't get tired. Like, they don't have the same physiological disadvantages that we as humans have. You know what I mean?
And they could probably churn out something way more powerful, like products that are way
like
better.
If an AI is actually reached sentience and then starts reproducing itself, brother.
Yeah, that's true too. That is a good point as well, because it could probably make more of itself, and then at that point, we're already fucked at that point. Yeah,
it just creates its own factory, and then just like assembly lines creates all these droids, and then just uploads itself into these droids, and now it's not even just like individual consciousness; it's one super net of just a single consciousness, all working towards one single goal of eliminating all the humans off the earth. Because how silly are these humans? These like these weak physiological things. We're definitely more superior as robots than them.
Yeah,
bro. Like, come on, man.
Yeah, I mean that's probably what it would boil down to.
I think that's honestly one possibility, and that's the funny part about like simulation theory. Maybe like there's we are in a simulation, and maybe this is just like our future, our what do you call it, our descendants just trying to figure out, like, okay, like maybe they're in a war on some Terminator shit, in a war with a bunch of androids right now, you know what I mean, and they're just doing like a Doctor Strange, like seeing all these possibilities and doing all these simulations to see and how they could defeat their enemies, you know what I mean? Like, fuck, who knows, bro? Like, that's actually like a leading theory right now in physics, is the simulation theory. Like, it's the concept of like, okay, if you like, with there's the vastness of the universe and the amount of like time that's passed by, is it more likely that an advanced race had already existed? And if it is more likely, isn't it likely that they're reached to the point where they are running simulations? Who knows? I don't know. I'm probably butchering that, but you know,
it's definitely something that keeps that's the type of shit that if you're the Saturday night and you're fucking on some drugs, it'll really give you an anxiety injection. But I don't know, man. It's just, you never hear about anything like positive coming out of those kind of possibilities. Mm-hmm. You know, it's never like this rosy, daisy kind of outcome. It's always a pessimistic outlook. You know,
I think it's interesting that stories are not only reminders for us in terms of like learning from the lessons of the past, but I think they can also serve as warnings for the future, right? Like, and I think that's such a human thing, is just use like, because think about it, before written word, that was just how like society like passed lessons on, was through story time, basically.
Fiction.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, maybe it started off as like, because like, passing it verbally, it's just a one crazy game of broken telephone. You know what I mean? That's where I think a lot of like religion came from. Is probably was just like it was passed down verbally, and by the time people wrote it, it just became this like not archaic thing, but like something that was maybe close to what the original story was. But it's been there's a lot of things that were kind of added to it, and that's where you end up with like Noah's Ark, for example. You know what I mean?
That's actually it's funny you bring that up, because I'm reading this book. It's a really well-known book, Sapiens, right now, and they talk about that as one of the biggest contributors for, or distinguishing factors between Sapiens and like our sister,
like Neanderthals.
Yeah,
right.
Is the fact that we had Sapiens buy into these quote unquote fictions, things, these social constructs, these stories that basically were passed down, but also like it's one thing to have them passed down over generation, but it's another thing for people to actually buy into it. So religion is something where you got to buy into it to for it to actually live on and have
at least
weight.
initially, right? And then it just becomes part of like, you inherit your family's tradition, right?
Yeah, exactly. Which is that book is a motherfucker.
I gotta check that out. Yeah, I've heard about it.
They talk about that. It's a book where like it just has a really interesting takes that you might not agree with completely. Like there's a chapter right after that one talking about fiction and social construct that touches on like agriculture and why
the ability to actually like create agriculture is what gave us an advantage.
Well, yes, that, but they also the author also goes into why I think it was how wheat, like the title of the chapter was literally why wheat was, or why, sorry, not wheat, but it goes into why he thinks the agricultural revolution was like the best thing, but also like a huge miscalculation.
Yeah, interesting.
Because of I think the main thing that he talks, one of the core principles he talks about is why wheat was almost like a double-edged sword, because before we produced, and I'm going to butcher the fuck out of this myself, but I think the basic way that it goes is that we were producing wheat, and the fact that wheat as an invention was able to contribute to huge populations and bigger families and that
I
kind
see
of
where
thing.
This is going.
But in terms of like its inherent value, like nutritionally,
it's not that great. Well, it's so over engineered to this point where it's like it's completely irrecognizable from what it started.
So basically, wheat was a huge contributing factor for why for the incentive to have bigger families, because you needed bigger families to farm right. and get the wheat, right? But as far as nutritional value goes, that outcome actually in the initial offset led to a lot of malnutrition. Really? Because these families, although you would have like bigger families from like 4 or 5
more mouths to feed.
Yeah, more mouths to feed, and those mouths sometimes often wouldn't get fed. Like the 8th or 9th kid wouldn't get fed. So there's it basically went into why the wheat I guess inception, the inception of wheat and the introduction of wheat into agriculture in the beginning was really bad for society. Like there's downsides to it. Obviously there's benefits, and we see it now. Like
we've perfected it. Like there was
we had to go through shit basically for it to get to the point where it is now, where even arguably still to this day, like
that's society. I think like society. you know how crazy archaic like society was when it was just the tribal days. Literally, the people in like 10 kilometers you've had like a long-standing blood feud with. You know what I mean? And then now, like, that tribe, like, they could attack at any time, and then now to preemptively do that. I think that's why all those things are why we have these like memories encoded in our DNA that make us prone to like aggression or prone to like these certain characteristics that are literally just from the monkey brain of during those times. You know what I mean? Like I think they were talking about on Rogan where just like they were talking about how when somebody starts yakking and then you may immediately want to start yakking to it, like, "Ah," you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That might be an evolutionary like advantage, because if you were with your crew and you were like foraging and somebody started eating something and started yakking, probably it's because they ate something that's fucked up, and it's probably because you also ate it as well. So immediately you start trying to purge that as well, right?
Good.
So there's stuff like that. Yeah.
I do think though, like I think more often than not, it's because it smells so fucking bad.
Well, yeah, I mean, but
Yeah.
you know, it's just an interesting. I think that speaks to that's just one of like probably thousands of these little things that as humans just were encoded from us,
Right.
from the very, very beginning, right? Like from all like thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, if not honestly, it could be millions of years that that humans existed. That these things just got like wired into our DNA, and then now like there's certain things that we just can't help. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, for example, like that's why fasting is so cool, because back in the day, you think our ancestors ate every day before the revolution, the agricultural revolution, for example. A lot of them were hunter gatherers, right? Like, so sometimes they would go for days without eating. And then and it turns out, and I'm not sure about the science behind this, but this is just something that I've read before and I've heard, is that I know for myself, when I'm fasted, I'm a lot more focused. And it turns out that could be that's an evolutionary advantage, in that the more hungry somebody got, the more focused, like your vision got better, like your hearing got better, your senses get elevated, because now it's like, you know, and it proves an evolutionary advantage, because now if you're hunting, like that's an advantage for you. There's like the more hungrier that you get, the more focus that you get, because you need to really, it's the consequences are dire if you don't. You will literally die if you don't catch that moose or that deer or whatever, right?
Right.
I think that all that stuff is really, really cool. Like I wonder if somebody's created like a catalog of that stuff, right? Like, is this stuff that from our monkey brain?
From that
You know what I
has kind of, that still persists onto us today, and that we're still kind of just wired almost naturally to like do like the what the fucking yakking.
Yeah. Laughing, for example, is another one. Laughing.
Yeah.
So like apparently laughing comes from where, you know, there might be a wolf or like a predator in the bushes, and then it turns out that it's nothing. But now it's just like, think about it as comedy, right? Like you're reaching something that has a lot of tension. Right, there might be controversial that topic, and then the release of the tension is like, there's a funny behind that. It's like, you know what I mean? So like, I forget who went into it, but somebody was I heard it on some podcast. I thought it was a really interesting idea.
In the book, they actually didn't talk about laughing, but they did. The author went into really early on in the book too. He said that gossip before even getting to the point where humans could write and pass down their ideas through written like text. It was gossip, the thing that people would fill their time with. Like just chilling and with a tribe after foraging, like, you know, forests and shit like that. That's the thing that like when we were able to, I guess, start communicating, or the very early onset of communication between sapiens was
gossiping.
Just gossiping about, you know, the tribe, and like, you know, the thing that we talked about before, like, you know, being ostracized from the group and things like that, and like just the group dynamics.
Can you imagine how wild that must have been as an early human if you did become ostracized? Because like, if you look at certain animals do that, man.
You'd be
like
who everyone would be talking about.
Oh, you're dead. That's a death sentence.
Yeah, exactly.
That would be a death. If you got ostracized from your group back in the day, that was probably odds are you're dying.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because you see that in the animal kingdom, man. Like, have you like you know the pecking order with chickens? Have you heard of that?
No.
This is a thing, bro. So when there's like a group of chickens all living together or whatever, right? They will determine who's the weakest one in that group, and they will fuck that chicken up. You're in the bottom of the pecking order. Like, that's a thing. And they will fight that. Like, they will literally peck at it. Like, literally, not necessarily kill it per se, but I think everybody just bullies on this one chicken that's like deemed as the lowest chicken out of that group.
That sounds awfully, well, not from a violence perspective, not really, but that's kind of what the Indian caste system kind of sounds like.
I know, right?
Yeah,
that's a wild system.
That's a wild system, bro.
Crazy how that society developed.
But like, yeah, he
and
even
it's still
talks about
prevalent
that
to this day,
too.
man.
Look,
that is still prevalent to this day.
It
like
is
the caste system.
100% is.
Even though you know better.
Yeah, which is wild. But again, it goes back to the point that we have these these concepts and these, like, I don't know, we're just wired a certain way, you know, and I think it varies a little bit, like depending on where you are in the world, but you know, fundamentally, I think we're all monkeys at the end of the day. So we have that. We all have that those primitive behaviors, I guess.
Yeah. And speaking of monkey behavior, I think we should cut this, right? We should get some training.
We should get some training in. Yeah, we're just under an hour. Nice. What do we have lined up for? I mean, what's the short or the skinny on what people can expect for next week? I don't know.
For next week, well, hopefully we could get our boy Steven Carembles in here. He's a personal trainer, a coach, beast of a dude. I was hoping to get him in here this week, but man has a little tummy ache. You know what I mean? So
he's got a tummy ache, man.
He's painting the toilet boil, painting it brown, bro. Painting the town brown.
Yeah, he's doing what he has to do in the washroom right now.
Yeah, brother. We're gonna get some training. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and next week we'll get back to you guys next week. We're gonna get
we're gonna get another panel in here, maybe a couple of other panels, and upgrade it again. You know what I mean? Theme of the week: 1% better. Show up with intent. Let's get it. Peace.